A flight attendant's announcement on a plane asks if there's a detective on board, and the passenger, Kimihiko Kimizuka, believes it was a misunderstanding. Kimizuka then recalls how his bad luck streak has gotten him into many a situation, like being forced to carry an oversized case on the airplane. Once again, the flight attendant makes the announcement asking for a detective, and the girl sitting next to Kimizuka volunteers herself. Kimizuka then asks for the girl's name and regrets asking so bluntly, but the girl, amused by Kimizuka, makes him her sidekick. Heading to the scene of the crime, Kimizuka learns the girl's name is Siesta, and she dubs Kimizuka Kimi. At the scene of the crime, the cockpit of the plane, they find one of the male pilots dead, with a young man sitting on top of his corpse. Siesta asks for the man's name, and he replies, Bat. Siesta then introduces herself and Kimi as Watson and asks what he wants. On the other hand, Bat proposes a game where Siesta has to deduce his motive or else he'll kill the other pilot, thereby killing everyone on board the plane. It was after a brief conversation with Bat that Siesta deduced he is bored and has too much time on his hands, which he confirmed. Right as Bat tries to walk away, claiming he didn't kill the pilot but only rendered him unconscious. Before Bat leaves, Siesta calls out Bat for lying about not wanting to die, which was part of their earlier conversation, and that he did all of that under someone's directions. From there, Bat attacks Siesta with a scorpion tail-like appendix growing from his left ear. Trying to cover the wound on her right arm, Siesta reveals that Bat is a partial android that's part of the organization SPES. Kimi has an idea but needs her to buy him time. He comes back with that suitcase. Inside is a rifle in which Siesta uses to defeat Bat. In the end, Siesta kills Bat in order to divert the attention of the SPES organization from his tail. However, Bat still tries to attack Siesta but fails because the bullet shot at him was filled with Siesta's blood, thereby making it impossible for him to attack her ever again. After parting ways with Siesta at the airport, Kimi returns to his apartment and tries to figure out what he experienced that day. Just then, Siesta reveals that she's there too while enjoying a pizza. Eventually, Kimi and Siesta enjoy pizza together, and Kimi informs Siesta about a recent string of incidents involving Hanako of the Toliet. The following day, Siesta joins Kimi at school to investigate the Hanako mystery. Initially, Siesta wants to investigate the old school building, but due to lunch hours, she is unable to, so she settles on eating some crepes first. Finished eating their crepes, the two head to the old school where Hanako is said to appear. And when they do, the mascot that they met in the schoolyard confronts them but immediately runs away. They eventually catch the culprit and learn that he was giving the students a drug. Kimi also agrees to become Siesta's partner and promises to protect him from danger. It's been a year since Siesta died. Kimizuka goes about his daily life as a high school student. Late that afternoon, Kimihiko is interrogated by a girl named Nagisa Natsunagi, who, after confirming his identity as a detective, requests that he take on her job. In a cafe setting, Nagisa tells Kimihiko that she's looking to find someone. However, she has no clue as to whom the person may be. Due to being born with a heart condition, Nagisa had a heart transplant a year ago, and the person in question was the donor. Another thing that's been told is that since her transplant, she's been experiencing what's called a memory transplant. However, Kimihiko deduces that it's her new heart that wants to meet a certain person, someone they were close with in life. Despite Kimihiko's disapproval, he begrudgingly agrees, and the following day he meets up with her. During their meeting, Kimihiko catches a robber, and when the culprit is arrested, Fubi Case arrives at the scene. Fubi talks to Kimihiko about him restarting his detective career. After learning about his new case, Fubi leads them to a prison, where they meet an incarcerated Bat who is now blind. From there, Bat is told by Nagisa why they're there, because Kimihiko figured Bat's superhuman hearing could discern who the heart's original owner was. Suddenly, Bat tries to attack Nagisa, but his appendix disintegrates before it can even touch her. Nagisa then has more memory revelations about her previous owner, confirming it belonged to Siesta. Although Kimihiko first believes this all to be a coincidence, Nagisa loses it on Kimihiko, and he then embraces her while confining his lament about being Siesta's partner. Afterward, when the two try to part ways with each other, a young girl wearing an eye patch stops Kimihiko and asks that he take on her request. She introduced herself as a young idol, Yui Seikawa, who requested his services as the legendary detective. However, Kimihiko refuses, claiming he's not the one she's looking for, and Nagisa steps in, saying that Kimihiko is her assistant and that she is the real detective. With that settled, Yui explains aloud that she wants the two to prevent the theft of a 3 billion yen sapphire. Kimihiko muffles Yui's mouth to quiet her as she attracts the attention of people, and then an idle newscast plays focusing on Yui's rising career status. Yui then bites Kimihiko's hand and frees herself from his grasp, and after a scene between the three of them, Yui's request is accepted. The following day, both Kimihiko and Nagisa visit Yui at her mansion to discuss the job in further detail. To start, Yui shows the 2 ransom notes sent to her. As for the item that is to be stolen, Yui says it's the family heirloom miracle sapphire that's kept in a vault. Kimihiko asked about why she doesn't have extra security on the day of the crime. Yui answers that on the date of the theft, she'll be in concert. Furthermore, her guards are in fact her biggest fans. Disgusted by Yui's immature nature and inadequate security, he tries to leave but is convinced to stay by Nagisa. They then learn that Yui is the head of the household due to her parents' deaths 3 years ago, and then show the 2 the targeted item. Both Kimihiko and Yui then have a bonding moment in the vault together, and later Kimihiko has one with Nagisa as they walk home together. On the day before the sapphire theft, Kimihiko and Nagisa go to the dome, where Yui rehearses for the big show the following day. During Yui's rehearsal, she's attacked by an unknown assailant who manages to flee the scene. Both Kimihiko and Nagisa then head onto the stage and help Yui, but internally, Kimihiko notes that Yui's lying. The day of the concert, while they going to the stadium show, Kimihiko reaffirms to Nagisa that Yui was lying to them. At the stadium, they scope out the crowd. While at Yui's mansion, Fubi arrives there with her backup. Back at the stadium, Yui was yet to perform the 81. However, she instead did the Sapphire Phantasm. As this song is performed, Kimihiko and Nagisa split up, and thanks to a tip from Nagisa, Kimihiko spots the assailant from the second-floor balcony armed with a crossbow. During the song, Yui takes off her eye patch and reveals that her left eye is in fact a sapphire eye. Leaping into action, Kimihiko saves Yui from the assailant's attack. Backstage, Kimihiko and Yui learn the truth behind Yui and her sapphire eye. However, that was not the end of that, as Kimihiko reveals Yui hasn't revealed the truth to her lie. He then contacts Fubi, who informs him that the bomb attached to the vault was defused by the bomb squad. Furthermore, the bomb was to be used to wipe out Kimihiko and Nagisa while they protected it, and Specs is interested in Yui's sapphire eye. Not only that, it's the same kind of artificial prosthetic that Bat has for his ear. Once this is all revealed, both Kimihiko and Yui draw their guns at each other, startling Nagisa, and Kimihiko deduces that Yui had a deal with Specs. He also reveals how he knew about her eye. This leads to Kimihiko striking a deal with Yui to form an alliance with her. A flashback shows Kimihiko, Siesta, and a young lady named Charlotte Arasaka Anderson on a boat, where Siesta assigns Char to work with Kimihiko. It was also on that day that Siesta died. A flashback involving Kimihiko and Siesta shows them at the beach for a brief vacation before they start their job in search of the Emerald Tear. Eventually, they investigate a murder at a church, where Siesta deduces the culprit is someone called Cerberus because the victim was missing his heart. Outside of the church, the two meet with Fubi, who informs them she's heading back to Japan and gives Kimihiko her lighter, claiming she's quitting smoking. The two sit on a park bench and review the case at hand. It's considered that Cerberus is a SPES android with a modified nose like Bat's. They then devise a plan to have Cerberus come to them with Kimihiko as the bait. That night at a hotel, Kimihiko waits for Cerberus to come, and during it, Charlotte breaks into his room. However, Kimihiko realizes she's an imposter, and in reality, it was really Cerberus. In their brief altercation with each other, Kimihiko sets his bed on fire, which activates the fire sprinklers. When asked what Cerberus' motive, he merely claims that he has none and is simply following the orders of his mission. Just then, Siesta appears and takes down Cerberus. He, however, tries to escape but is decapitated by the sudden appearance of a girl named Hel, who is the supreme leader of SPES. Hel then carves out a crystal from Cerberus' chest, and right as Siesta aims her gun at Hel, her eyes glow red and she blacks out. Afterward, Kimihiko awakens tied to a chair at an undisclosed location. He was abducted by Hel and talks with her about a sacred writ that talks about the leaves of Agast. Hel deduces that Kimihiko isn't a magnet for trouble but a catalyst that awakens it, and she requests that he become her partner to save the world. Kimihiko then claims her goal is to destroy the world. However, she claims that would be salvation and that he'd join her in the future. Once again, Hel asks if Kimihiko will join her, but he flatly refuses, and so she then reveals a giant monster that's also in the room. The monster has the ability to spew virulent gas, and Hel also reveals that their current location is under the nation's parliament building. It's also revealed that the monster feeds on human hearts, and Hel then gives the monster named Betelgeuse Cerberus' heart, thereby awakening it. Kimihiko then manages to escape from his restraints, and at that moment, Siesta arrives on the scene, piloting a giant robot. When asked by Siesta why Hell is doing all of this, she answers that she's merely following what's written in the sacred writ. So, Siesta has Kimihiko ride in the back of her on the machine, and they proceed to fight against Hell riding on top of the monstrous Beetlejuice. In the end, Siesta ejects Kimihiko out of the machine and crashes it into the monster. Although injured, Siesta is thankfully okay. However, their happy reunion is brief, as Hell turns out to be still alive. Although during this encounter Hell is dealt with by Siesta, she manages to escape thanks to the help of someone named Chameleon. Time passes, and they stay in a hotel so Siesta can recover from her injuries. While going out on a shopping trip, Kimihiko runs into a girl sleeping in a wooden box. Checking up on the girl awakens and claims that she's going to be attacked. Kimihiko then asks who she's going to be attacked by, and the girl claims it's him. Kimihiko manages to calm the girl down and learn her name, Alicia. They then talk about Alicia's backstory, and Kimihiko invites her back to the hotel, where Siesta immediately calls Kimihiko a lolicon. The group then talks about what to do with Alicia, and ultimately, it's decided that Kimihiko will take on the job as Siesta is out of commission due to her injuries. They're then visited by Fubi, who informs the group that Jack the Ripper has been resurrected and tells them something about the Eye of Sapphire. Alicia, now wearing detective old-fashioned attire that she received from Siesta, goes off on a search for the Sapphire's eyes with Kimihiko. Their search first leads them to a jewelry store, where they find a big and expensive sapphire. Alicia tries to buy it but is stopped by Kimihiko, who claims the sapphire thereafter is more underground. Understanding that to some extent, Alicia and Kimihiko go on a wild goose chase for the sapphire until Siesta finally recovers. A small party is held for her at a restaurant, and there they discuss a couple of topics, including the sapphire eye. This causes Alicia to abruptly leave in a tizzy, and later Kimihiko and Siesta return to their room, where Siesta is completely drunk. They have a heart-to-heart together and sleep together in bed. The following morning, Siesta tries to use a drug that erases memory. However, Alicia arrives and figures out where the sapphire eye is. As it turns out, it was Kimihiko's left eye that was injured. Later, Fubi contacts Kimihiko, and it's revealed that the Fubi, Siesta, and he spoke with weren't the real ones. Eating some curry at the dinner table, Siesta comments on how the carrots are as hard as iron, and Kimihiko retorts that's what you get for eating curry made by him. They then talk about the imposter Fubi, and how androids can inherit others' abilities by taking over another's core. It's speculated that Hell is now continuing where Cerberus left off for her own benefit. Alicia intervenes in the conversation and offers her assistance. However, Siesta refuses. Because of this, Alicia decides to solve the case alone and declares that Kimihiko will be her partner. At that moment, sirens could be signaling a fifth victim who lost their heart. The following day, Siesta, Kimihiko, and Alicia talk with the victim's widowed mother, who describes the victim's backstory to them. Siesta also curtly presses her for some information, and the mother starts to become emotional. But Alicia helps her by telling her a motivational speech about her deceased daughter. Afterward, Siesta and Kimihiko talk about how she handled the questioning with the victim's mother and later talk with Alicia about his talk with Siesta. Also during it, Kimihiko gives Alicia a ring that he bought from a street merchant. When Kimihiko is asked by Alicia to put it on, Siesta arrives at the scene, notes her disdain for what Kimihiko is doing, and leaves. Back at the hotel, Siesta locks herself away in her room, and Kimihiko, after talking with Siesta from the other room, heads out for a bit. It's outside that he finds an injured Alicia and another injured victim. He's soon joined by Siesta, and Kimihiko then takes the injured Alicia to the hospital. From there, Kimihiko reveals that he placed a tracking device on her to not only keep track of her location, but also keep track of her heart rate as well. They briefly talk with each other, and soon Kimihiko passes out, and when he awakens, he finds that Alicia is gone. Afterward, at a church, Kimihiko meets with Siesta, who informs Kimihiko of her suspicions that Alicia is really Hell. From out of nowhere, Alicia appears and confirms that their suspicions are correct, but before Siesta could take her out, she's taken away by Chameleon. He informs the two of the place he plans on taking Alicia, a small island 700 nautical miles away that acts as the base of operations for the SPES organization. Kimihiko, Siesta, and Charlotte all head to the SPES island hideout. Charlotte and Kimihiko both infiltrate the base and encounter Seed, impersonating first Cerberus and then Bat. As Seed details, they are a plant from outer space who plans on blanketing the planet with his seeds. Finding out that Siesta is in trouble, they try to leave the place and find her, but are stopped by Chameleon. Charlotte stays behind to fight against Chameleon, and riding on a motorcycle, Kimihiko finds Siesta in a dirt field. After the two have a brief chat with each other, Hell appears and fights against Siesta. Midway through their fight is interrupted by Beetlejuice, who manages to knock Siesta unconscious but is slain by Hell. Hell then tries to take Siesta's heart, but Kimihiko tries to stop him only to be incapacitated by flowers that bloomed on his body. Awakening in his room, Kimihiko looks at the picture that he and Siesta once took together. Returning to the present, Nagisa walks down the streets of her town at night with a luggage bag in tow while reflecting on her new life. Eventually, Kimihiko, Nagisa, and Yui are on a luxury cruise line to the Aegean Sea. Just then they're approached by Char, who gets into an argument with her over being Siesta's successor. Afterward, Kimihiko talks with Char and learns that Siesta left Char a bequest that lies dormant on the ship. Kimihiko brushes off what Char says, and then investigates the ship. Finding nothing out of the ordinary, he enjoys dinner with Nagisa, and they later have drinks in the bar, where they have a heart-to-heart about her heart. The following day, a weird announcement is made, and Nagisa is nowhere to be found. Kimihiko and Yui search frantically for her but cannot find her anywhere on the ship. Meeting with the ship's crew, they find that a copy of Sherlock Holmes' short stories is in it, along with a bookmark with a message demanding Siesta's bequest. Eventually, Kimihiko finds Chameleon on the bow of the ship with Nagisa wrapped around his tail. Chameleon demands that Kimihiko turn over Siesta's bequest. However, Kimihiko doesn't have it. Disappointed that the negotiations have failed, Chameleon gives Kimihiko two choices: the lives of the people on the ship or the life of his partner Nagisa. In the end, Kimihiko points his gun at Chameleon, claims that Nagisa can't die before him, and fires his gun. Kimihiko fires his gun at Chameleon's tail, freeing Nagisa from his grasp and making her fall into the ocean below. But Yui manages to safely catch Nagisa with a soft mattress on the boat's front. Aggravated that he's lost his leverage in the situation, Chameleon transforms into his beast form, vowing to not hold back any longer. A flashback shows Kimihiko enjoying some tea with Siesta and chatting about what being a detective means to her. Back in the present, Kimihiko fires off his gun against Chameleon, who deflects the bullets with his tail and uses it to knock him down. Just then, Char arrives on a helicopter piloted by Fubi and fires off at Chameleon. Agitated by the turn of events, Chameleon uses his tail to pierce the hull of the helicopter, causing it to leak gasoline into the bow of the ship and disappear. Using her lighter, Fubi throws it onto the ship, igniting the gasoline, and a charred Chameleon reveals himself. Taking advantage of the situation, Char fires an anti-tank rifle at the beast, blasting off its tail, and Kimihiko uses it to jam Chameleon's mouth shut. Regrowing his tail, Chameleon smashes the floor beneath them, causing them to fall to the floor below them. Another flashback plays involving Kimihiko's last encounter with Hell. It shows Siesta temporarily possessing the body of Hell and delivering one last message to him. Back in the present, Kimihiko and Chameleon were going to fight against each other, but they were stopped midway when Nagisa fired her gun at the beast. As it turns out, Nagisa is being possessed by Siesta now. The two then face off against Chameleon and discuss what Kimihiko has been up to. Amid the fight, Chameleon transforms again into a larger, more primordial form. However, Kimihiko and Siesta manage to defeat him in the end. The following day, Kimihiko informs Charlotte that he met Siesta. The news surprises her, and she offers him to visit a florist one day to pick out a bouquet of flowers for Siesta's grave. Eventually, Kimihiko goes on a shopping trip with Yui and later talks with Fubi. Afterward, Kimihiko talks with Nagisa, now in full control of her own body, at a bar. It's there that Kimihiko deduces that Nagisa allowed Siesta control of her body. Nagisa confesses that's true and agrees to continue to be Kimihiko's partner. Right when Nagisa tries to seduce Kimihiko, an announcement is made asking for a detective on board. Wasting no time, Nagisa drags Kimihiko to the scene of the crime. Thank you for watching till the end, and please don't forget to subscribe.